Pain.
What?
Pain.
What's your name?
Pain.
So you want to main Danjin. Well, do you like dual swords? Do you like family? Do you like living on the edge? Do you like having enough combos to make you feel like a fighting game player? And do you like the color red? Everything in red, just like Danjin. Then Danjin might be the resonator for you. And if you want to see more Wuthering Waves content, don't forget to subscribe, and also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/spider2b. And if you make any corrections or forget to mention something, it'll be in the pinned comment down below. Alright, let's carve right in.
こちら 2B 問題ない
Danjin was born along with her twin sister as the last of their generation to possess powerful abilities from a bloodline of warriors called the Safflower of Huanlong, who fought the Renodins, the enemies, to protect the people. Safflower warriors were loved by the people, but the more that they used their power, the more that they broke down, posing a danger to not only themselves, but the people around them in battle. Nowadays, with the enemy threat gone, the sisters are able to live a peaceful life. At least that's what her dad had thought. But the elder sister began using her powers at will, unknowing of the consequences. Yet to the surprise of everyone, she didn't suffer the same condition that plagued the Safflower warriors of the past, but the same couldn't be said for her younger sister Danjin, who suffered quietly. When the elder sister heard the adults talk about trying to treat Danjin, she left home with her sister and they joined the Midnight Rangers. There, Danjin was the adopted younger sister of the Midnight Rangers who helped look after her. But as the days grew on with the Midnight Rangers, the elder sister's abilities got stronger while Danjin was suffering in her place, withering away more of her health the stronger her sister became. Danjin was ready to sacrifice herself in exchange for her sister's survival, but when the elder sister found out, she took Danjin and left the Midnight Rangers since she no longer trusted them as they neglected Danjin's health just like the adults. So they wandered the outside world trying to find a cure for Danjin. In-game, Danjin's story is reflected in her abilities. She's a 4-star DPS that sacrifices HP to do massive havoc damage using dual blades with yandere style intent. But before I get into her kit, do note that this is a closed beta test and everything said from here is subject to change. So I won't be including overlays and stuff, and not because I'm lazy and I'm running out of time to record this video. What do you mean? Running through her kit, her normal attack string performs 3 consecutive blade strikes at melee range. Her charge attack consumes stamina to do fast multi-hit slashes, and her plunge attack deals havoc damage in an AoE. Now let's talk about her skill, which is the bread and butter of her kit. Pressing her skill will drain 20% of Danjin's HP to do a strike, dealing havoc damage and adding a charge to her gauge. But you don't want to single tap this ability like other resonators, instead you want to combo the skill with her basic attacks. She has 2 combos. Her first combo, Vermilion Eclipse, activates by normal attacking twice, then quickly pressing the skill twice to do an X slash, dealing havoc damage, adding 2 charges to her gauge, and reducing the target's havoc resist. Note that this is her only combo that doesn't drain HP, and I'll refer to it as a 2-hit combo for the rest of the video. Her other combo, Scarlet Ember, activates by normal attacking 3 times, then quickly pressing the skill 3 times to deal a cleaving combo, dealing havoc damage, and filling her entire gauge at the cost of 60% of her HP. And I'll refer to this as her 3-hit combo for the rest of the video. So TLDR, basically press the normal attack 2 or 3 times, and then press the skill 2 or 3 times after. These combos are essential to deal havoc damage as well as filling the gauge, and not doing them will take forever to build that gauge. So why do we need to fill this gauge? Well, when we hold down the normal attack when the gauge is full, it does a multi-hit AoE attack, dealing massive havoc damage and healing some of Danjin's HP. Afterwards, she can do a heavy attack that deals havoc damage. And she has specific passives at different HP levels, so if she's below 60%, she does more havoc damage, and if she's below 30%, then her skill doesn't cost any more HP, so you don't end up killing yourself in game. And there's not much else to be said about this skill other than it keeps her from joining her ancestors. When swapping in, Danjin performs a Malice Strike attack, dealing havoc damage. But if you quickly press her skill twice, she'll automatically chain into her 2-hit combo, which helps speed up filling her gauge. After a perfect evasion, her next attack does a slash strike, and again, if you press her skill twice quickly after, you can trigger her 2-hit combo, just like her swap in attack. And her ultimate makes her go full yandere mode, unleashing her Scarlet Bloom to do 7 AoE blade strikes in front of her, dealing massive havoc damage to enemies in the area. Note that she's invincible, but immobile during this duration. And in terms of what abilities to max first, I like to start with her skill since that's the main part of her kit, and then her ultimate into her swap and attack, and then finally her basic attack. And as for the bonuses in her skill tree, you can either pick between Overflow and Scarlet Ray. Both of them are good, so just pick whichever one you prefer. Next up we have Sequence Chain, which is similar to Constellations in Genshin or Evolutions in PGR. It's not really needed for her to function, but it adds a bit of damage and quality of life to her kit. Sequence 1 just adds a bit of damage. Sequence 2 gives energy after charge attacking, which can help her get her ult a bit quicker. Sequence 3 further reduces the havoc resist shred on her 2-hit combo, which is a nice damage increase. Sequence 4 adds resist to interruption on half HP, which isn't a big deal for her since her combos can be adapted depending on the situation. Sequence 5 again is more damage, and Sequence 6 has her ult heal her if she's low, or add more damage if she's not low. But like I said, it's perfectly viable and strong to use her at base sequence, or the base level without any copies. If anything, it's her gear that's more important, so let's go over that. As for weapons, note that all weapons in the same tier have the same base attack. Let's start with the 2-star weapon, the Primordial Sword, which is not ideal, but usable in the very early game. I wouldn't level it if you can help it though, because the base attack is just way too low. The 3-star swords are kind of like the bare minimum tier of swords that I would use. They're useful up until the very late game, since the base attack is serviceable and you can get multiple refinement ranks with multiple copies by doing a few rolls, so you can increase the weapon's passive a bit. You have a few choices between them, but they're all essentially the same. Sword of the Knight gives some healing, but its passive is kind of useless in single target. The Cleave is pretty nice because you often swap an attack to perform the 2-hit combo, and its added attack passive on the QTE is useful because of that. And the Commando Conviction is probably the most useful passive. It's almost tailor-made for Danjin actually, but the problem is that it seems to be a bit more rare from my experience. As for the 4-star swords, this is which one to aim for. Let's start with the Ultrasonic Sword, which is probably the best you can get as a free-to-play. You can craft it from the smithy with the sword billet, which you can get from the souvenir shop, and 72 plant amber ores. Its passive is strong, but it depends if you have ultimate at the start of the battle, or having a fight long enough to build ultimate, but it usually doesn't take too long to build the ultimate with its resonance efficiency substat, but again, a very solid stat stick nonetheless. The Scaled Chop is an alright sword to get its ultimate quicker, but its passive isn't really geared for damage like the Ultrasonic Sword, so still probably go for the Ultrasonic Sword there. And the Cleave 2 is the only 4-star sword I haven't pulled, but if it's anything like its 3-star counterpart, it should be a solid weapon if you can pull it. I would assume that it either has an attack or crit substat with the same passive. And finally, the Flowing Wishes is a universally good 5-star sword, and currently the only one in the CBT, which makes it the best in slot by default from the base stats alone, although you'll need some form of crit rate in your build to take full advantage of the crit damage stat. Overall, a 4-star weapon is good enough for all the content in the game, so try to get one eventually. The 5-star is nice, but it's far from necessary, at least at the current moment. Now let's talk about how you want to gear Danjin. The gearing menu is split between the tonic main slot echo and the consonant side slot echo. Echoes are kind of like the gear for this game. In the early game, you just want to get an attack main stat on the tonic. In the mid game, you want to look for the deep scale and havoc accompaniment 3-piece set for more havoc damage and havoc resist shred. You can find the pieces by obtaining one of them and clicking on the Sonata button and tracking the enemies. The higher level your resonance terminal, the better quality echoes you'll get. And if you head into the sound collection in the resonance record, which is kind of like the novice missions for the game, you can get a free havoc damage crownless echo by completing rank 5. And this gives the 4-piece set bonus, Forgotten Movement, to further increase your ultimate's havoc damage. And havoc users in the CBT seem to be able to take advantage of all 3 set bonuses on one character, which is kind of broken low-key. For the consonant slots, look for attack, crit rate and damage, and then resonance efficiency substats, but this is more of a late game thing, so I wouldn't worry about it so much later. And there are plenty other 3 and 4 set bonuses that increase attack, but attack buffs are more common than havoc damage buffs from what I've seen, so they're more like suboptimal temporary sets if you already have the attack sets. And finally, if you're running the 5-star weapon, which has crit damage, you may want to run the crit rate for the main stat tonic, or pray that you roll crit substats in the constants. And I want to quickly run over teams as well. From what I've played, there doesn't seem to be a set team to run, so I just run whoever with Danjin. You can run healers if you need more healing, but Danjin's always going to be low anyways, and all the Concerto team buffs essentially just add damage. So now that I talk about her abilities and her builds, let's actually talk about how to play her. Danjin is a very delicate balancing act, and in the hands of an inexperienced player, she may just seem like an overly complex player that keeps draining HP, but when mastered, she's a literal monster of a unit. Since she's always at low HP, she requires you to know your enemy well to dodge and stay alive and not get like one shot. But to negate the low HP, you need to constantly be using your 2-hit and 3-hit combos to build and fill up that gauge, so you can charge attack to heal, and that way you'll keep your HP stable. But this will just take some practice. A good Danjin player will have almost permanent havoc damage and shred uptime by constantly alternating between their 2-hit and 3-hit combos, either from normal attacks, dodging, or swapping in. But just use whatever combo you can pull off without getting yourself in a vulnerable position. For example, her Evasion attack in the 2-hit combo is especially strong since it has no cooldown, and I often abuse it in rapid attack boss fights to speed up my 2-hit combo, and that way I can build my gauge quickly and keep the havoc shred uptime. Conditioning yourself to know what point in the normal attack string you're at, and instantly hitting the skills to do the right combo is what will separate a veteran Danjin player from a new one. Also note that her ultimate locks you into place with a long animation. You're not going to die, but timing it wrong is really awkward and you lose a lot of free damage. So try to use it when the boss won't be able to move. Danjin's kit also allows for more parry opportunities since she has many consecutive hits and multi-hit with her charge attack, and she's also my go-to for co-op due to her self-sustain with no damage downtime or cooldowns, which makes her very versatile. And actually, the only real downside is that she can't really deal with fighting multiple mobs since her AoE is not the largest and she doesn't have any crowd control. And yeah, that's pretty much Danjin. I was like 90% done with this video when I realized maybe the time of this video probably doesn't make much sense since the game probably won't be out for like another year, but I had to make a video on her because she's probably one of the most fun characters I've played in the CBT. Plus for a 4-star character, she has so much depth, which is just amazing. Thank you, Kuro. So, a preview of videos to come, I guess. Once the game does finally release, I encourage you to at least give her a try if you get her. She might surprise you if you put in the time. And if there's any updates or corrections, I'll leave a pinned comment down below. Join our community Discord at discord.io/achanatamba, where we regularly talk about Wuthering Waves and punishing Great Raven. Subscribe to my featured guides and videos on PGR and Wuthering Waves, and if you find this video informative, drop a like, a dislike if you didn't. I stream on my Twitch at twitch.tv/spider2b, so drop a follow if you want to see when I go live. And yeah, I spent way too much time playing and streaming Wuthering Waves CBT, to the point where I hit endgame and I almost forgot to make this video. Wuthering Waves content creator, by the way. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of this type of video. Thank you as always for watching, and peace late.